Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today, we're talking about the finale of She-Hulk. And boy, oh boy, was it different than anything else that we've seen. I was very excited within the first couple minutes because I feel like we called some stuff. And then very quickly, it went off the rails. And I'm not really sure what we wound up with. But as I was mentioning to Elisa before we started, I feel like I went through all the range of emotions watching this episode. I was into it, then I wasn't into it, then I was into it again. By the end, I was just I accepted it for what it was. So let's talk about first thoughts for the two of you.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting this. This was like breaking the 37th wall of just where is this going. Yeah, this is a pretty wild episode. I wanted to shout this out because I think this is what tripped me up more than anything. So if you are a subscriber to Hulu, or if FX or FXX has their own subscription, I don't know, more than likely a lot of you probably have the bundle, so you probably have Hulu. Anyway, go watch the show Atlanta, created by Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino. Last week's episode of Atlanta was very similar to this, and it was really tripping me out. And if y'all are curious, we can talk a little bit more about like what happened there at the end of this. But yeah, just for this episode, I feel like I'm still processing a lot of it because it was just that wild.
Well, how about you, Elisa? What were your first thoughts?
I thought this was ingenious. I was very, very jarred by that shift, like in the middle of the episode. But the more it went on, I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. We have never seen a finale like this. And really, I love it. I think this was such a good way for this show to go out. And it kind of made sense for the way that the show's been structured so far and about what we know about Jen as a character. Look, I don't know how this checks out with the show existing in MCU reality, but I'm into this idea. So, as always, I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, let's dive into the episode itself because it kind of starts where we would expect it to start, and it kind of went in a direction that we kind of talked about it going in. Basically, we're picking up where we left off. A little bit later, I guess, because now Jen is in prison for hulking out. Even though, I don't know, she didn't hurt anybody. You know, she broke some TV screens, but I don't know. I feel like Supermax was a leap for them to make, but anyway,
just the fear of everyone.
Yeah, I guess.
Is this kind of being like like public disturbance or something?
Yeah,
because I mean, y'all are right. She didn't actually hurt anybody.
Yeah,
but she has to go to super jail because she's a Hulk.
Yeah,
it's so it kind of does feel familiar. This does feel like I've seen these moments in a lot of films that usually are around law or something, where like you would have a lawyer who's just deep in a case and it's stressing them out, and then they go to the bar and they get a little drunk and they're, just kind of going, they need to be put in a place to get back to normal. And essentially, they probably spend a night in jail, and then they're kind of like, okay, everything's cool, I'll get back to the case and let's win this thing. That's kind of what this felt like.
Yeah. And then they also made the leap to she's never allowed to turn into She-Hulk ever again. That's what they've decided. What
I'm kind of seeing this as, and I feel like a lot of people could be as well, is that this is kind of going between the line of are they going to move She-Hulk towards that she is a mutant, or is this is she actually like a Hulk? Is she the same as Bruce? Mm-hmm. Because the technology used is heavy within the mutant verse in terms of when mutants are imprisoned
Mhm.
They use the same technology to basically isolate their powers, and they're kind of like state owned at that point.
Mhm.
So if the government needs them to solve something, then they're like, we can allow you to use your powers at this point, and then basically you got to be normal.
Right.
So that's kind of what it feels like they're leaning towards in this series. I'm just curious if that's going to be accurate if we do get a season 2 or if this goes into a movie.
Mhm.
I mean, let's just go ahead and, I mean, she flat out asked. It's like, I'm like, this gotta, there's,
Yeah.
what are they doing here?
Yeah. I could see it going that way. I feel like they don't really explain the power inhibitors. Because I mean, it doesn't work for her or for Emil. They both can change whenever, and they are wearing these power inhibitors. So I don't really know what the point of the power inhibitor is.
Yeah, I thought the initial point was that in this certain case, it was basically just meant to like alert the authorities.
Sure.
But even though if like Emil's been turning into Abomination and no one's showing up, like, then you're right. Like,
Yeah. But also they call it, they specifically call it a power inhibitor as if it does anything.
Well, doesn't she like take hers off or like wreck hers so that she can get past it? And doesn't Emil fry his?
But that's the thing, is like we don't like really know, and they never really like address 100% address it, because I don't think that we like see Jen do anything to hers.
No,
she just
she says she's gonna do it.
Yeah, and then she turns into She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's almost like
budget.
right. It doesn't go,
because if she could just like crush it, then what's the point? Like, that seems like the most worthless thing.
I know. I saw like a really good image of them. Let me see if I can find it again. But I mean, it looked like cheap. It looked like there's these two little pieces that you could just snap off, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, which maybe is what happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't want us to get too far out of the beginning of the episode without talking about the 70s intro with the narrator.
Oh, it was great.
That was perfect, especially like Bruce turning and looking into the camera.
Yeah, and like just basically like redoing the old Hulk television show's opening, but with She-Hulk instead. It was great.
Just the little details of like, you could clearly see like She-Hulk was a whole nother person, looked completely different. Yeah,
it was a practical She-Hulk as opposed to CG She-Hulk.
And so many of these some of the stills within this, were leaked very early on. I kind of was expecting like, are we gonna get this? Is this our intro for every episode? And they just kind of held this on to the very end, which I think was perfect, because I mean, it's just, this episode is just everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we get one of the things that we called was that she was going to wind up at Emil's camp as kind of like a rehab program, and that's kind of where she goes. There were like a ton of moments in this episode where something would happen and I would make a note of it and be like, this is important, and then like moments later they would explain it and I was like, oh, okay. So one of those was Intelligentsia is throwing like a get together, and Nikki decides that she's going to break in, basically. Once she gets in, she realizes that she's going to need Pug to go in her place because it sounds like it's a boys fest, and so she convinces Pug to go in. As soon as he goes in, the first thing I did was I wrote down, this place looks real familiar. We've been in this room before, and I couldn't quite place it, but I was like, I know we've been here. And moments later, Emil walks in, and they explain to Jen that, oh, Emil he's like hosting an event down in the lodge or whatever. And I was like, that's what it is. We're on Emil's property. There was something I wrote that I still was never really explained. In Intelligentsia, like in the meeting, there's just a guy with a hard hat. I don't know why. Like, no one else is wearing. Is it supposed to be like he's a construction worker and he can't like? Why does this guy have a hard hat on? That was weird.
Well, I mean, look, Pug was like more or less looking a bit dapper, like very suited up. Clearly, the only one with an earpiece.
Even though Nikki told him there was people.
It's okay. They'll all have earpieces and like, like what?
But nobody cares. Nobody.
And no one cared. Like, you know, in a way, it kind of fit like his aesthetic. So, you know,
I can report that a large number of very young men, aka teenage boys at the school where I work, do walk around with one earbud in literally constantly.
We better watch out. Maybe talking to Agatha.
Okay. She's not who we think she is. Like her whole thing there was just basically like a little towards the evil side of things. Like, I don't know.
After seeing that, now I feel like my perception is a little twisted to expect that, because it is such like a good like it's because I thought that too. Like for the majority of this episode, I was like, oh well, I gotta remember Nikki's Agatha. But like we don't know yet. And we don't know where this show is going or where these characters are going. And Agatha's got her own show coming out eventually. And who knows if that's going to continue her story or if it's going to be like a prequel story, or I don't know. But let's talk about the big change in this episode. First of all, I was a little upset because sure enough, Todd Phillips was Hulk King, which we had talked about. And I expressed when we talked about it that I was like, that just seems too easy. Like, I would rather it be somebody cool. It was not. It was Todd Phillips. He got the blood. Basically, they like tried to like wrap up that story very fast. He turns himself into a Hulk, which looks horrible. I don't know what was wrong with it, but like something about it, I was just like, oh, he looks so weird.
Save the budget.
Yeah, but Abomination looks cool. She-Hulk looks good. Hulk shows up. Bruce shows up. He looks good.
Todd doesn't need to look cool. Todd needs to look terrible.
Yeah, and he did. And so then I wrote in all caps Hulk fight, because that's what essentially starts happening. Emil is there as Abomination. She-Hulk is like, well, I guess she's not She-Hulk yet. She's still Jen, but she's like, what do I do? Todd is just kind of standing around as Emil and Bruce start to fight. And then something odd happens. And Jen makes a point that it's all a little too crazy and it doesn't make sense. And then it looks like we get kicked out to the Disney Plus Marvel screen with all the shows and stuff. And then Jen keeps talking, and then she kicks the She-Hulk logo out of frame and climbs through and swings down into the Marvel assembled show. Yeah. And then is walking around Disney campus. I don't know what they call their headquarters there in Burbank, but the studio, I guess. She's walking around the Disney studio, and immediately it's like, what is happening right now? Well, I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know where this is going. Then she walks to a door, which, quick pause, if you want your free comic book this episode, it appears as she comes to the She-Hulk set door. The QR code is right there on the sign, so go get your free comic. But then it's like, we've gone beyond breaking the fourth wall because now she's in presumably our world. Yeah, I don't know where this fits. And she goes inside the writer's room and basically tells the writers, like, hey, you're ruining my final episode. This is horrible. This is lazy. I want to speak to Kevin. I like, what were you thinking when this was happening? Because I was certainly confused. I was like, this can't be how this season ends, right? Because like, there's so many questions that you guys left us with, and now we're not even talking about any of those. Because at this point, like, something that I had to remind myself after the episode was that these episodes are shorter. We've been getting these like hour 45-minute long episodes. Now all of She-Hulk has been like roughly 25 to 30 minutes. So at this point, we're like halfway through the episode, but it sort of feels like nothing has happened yet. And so now I was even more worried. Like, what?
I mean, I straight up thought we were going to see Kevin and he was going to be like, all right, so here's how we're going to roll into phase 5. And let me explain this to you. And, you know, I'll go ahead and tell you how you fit into everything. And
yeah. Well, this was another one of those moments where I wrote something down. I have this weird thing. I guess my fiance and I both do. We watch everything with subtitles on. Like, it doesn't matter. We just always have subtitles on. And like, majority of the time we make fun of them because, like, you know, stuff is spelled incorrectly or written not the way that they said it or something like that. But in this instance, when she says, I want to speak to Kevin, it's written out like the name Kevin. When the guy responds to her, you want to speak to Kevin, it's spelled out like K.E.V.I.N. And I was like, was that a mistake, or is Kevin a robot? And so I wrote it down, and then sure enough, we get, because then from then on, the rest of the time anyone says Kevin, it's spelled out like the name. So it was just that one time, and I was like, I feel like it was a mistake, but maybe not. Maybe Kevin's a robot. Sure enough, she goes to see Kevin. Kevin's a robot. And it's basically just like a room of screens running all of Marvel's movies and sort of like a Gladys-esque mix. If you took Gladys from Portal and mashed her with like an old camera and then used like the lens cover to make it look like a director's cap.
Yeah.
that's what Kevin looks like. And yeah, basically he explains that this is the way that Marvel stuff is made because this is what people want. And she says, no, it's not. This isn't what I want. And then there's a couple funny jokes, like he mentions that she needs to change back to Jen because the VFX team has moved on to another project, and we hear the like from anything with Wakanda mentioned in it. So sort of like a haha, they've all moved on to work on Black Panther. And then she sits down and starts asking a bunch of questions about like, what's going on? When are we getting mutants? Well, she says, when are we getting X-Men? And then she gives us all like a, yeah. None of those questions are answered, of course, which I don't know. If you're taking the time to do this weird spin on the rest of this episode, you could have given us like something. And then basically they come to terms with how she wants to end her season. She goes back into the Marvel universe, I guess. And Todd is in handcuffs. Well, I guess that's something what she does while she's there. She's like, get rid of this storyline. Don't bother this storyline. Bruce doesn't need to show up. So when she goes back, Todd's been arrested. Emil is no longer Abomination. Hulk is gone. They just kind of wrap it up, and that's literally like the end of the episode.
But Titania's still there.
Well, yeah, Titania's still there. Which
and Matt Murdock is there because she asked for him.
yes, Daredevil
It's like
shows
a
up.
woman has needs.
Oh.
So I was wrong. We got him for 2 episodes, not 1 episode. Even though he doesn't really do anything.
Hey, he does stuff. He goes to the barbecue.
Yeah. So then we go to the barbecue where Hulk comes back from Sakaar and explains that he has a son. So dun dun, we get to see Scar, Hulk's son, and hopefully this is leading to a Planet Hulk situation, because I know they like kind of did that a little bit with Thor Ragnarok, with like the gladiator pits and stuff. That's like a big part of Planet Hulk, but Planet Hulk is such like a crazy story that hopefully them introducing Scar will lead to a more true to the story Planet Hulk down the line.
Maybe.
Possible. Do you think we'll get like a Planet Hulk that could lead into World War Hulk?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I don't know enough to know if like we need Planet Hulk to go into World War Hulk, or if they'll just go to like, either direction.
I feel like the only thing, like they could easily do a World War Hulk and make the first like 15-20 minutes of the movie like a condensed Planet Hulk, because like the only thing you need from Planet Hulk for World War Hulk is that he gets married, basically.
Yeah.
He like meets the princess of Sakaar, or I don't think she's, yeah, maybe she is Princess Sakaar, and they have a baby. And then she dies. I mean, spoiler alert to like a comic book story from 20 years ago or something, 15 years ago. But yeah, they come back to Earth because Hulk is mad that they sent him to space, which like technically we've already had that with Thor Ragnarok, but like he comes back, he's mad, and then the Avengers fight back and his wife dies, and then he gets real mad, and then World War Hulk, and he attacks the world. So it's possible. That's when he said, I want to introduce you to somebody. That's where I thought it was going. He was going to introduce them to his queen, as opposed to straight to, yeah, this is my son.
Nope. Which he does not look very happy.
No.
He does not want to be at that family gathering.
No.
For sure.
I'm wondering if he even wants to be on planet Earth.
Maybe he's just a teen, and they kind of have that sullen.
Yeah, and that's like the other things that you could take from this is if you look at like what's been going on the past 2 years, we're getting a lot of like essentially younger superheroes leading up to Young Avengers. Is Scar part of Young Avengers, or could they like write him in to be like their version of the Hulk, their Hulk?
There is a Hulk for Young Avengers. There's actually 2 now, although they just recently changed Amadeus Cho's Hulk name. I don't remember what they changed it to. But for a long time he was Smart Hulk. And then people started calling Bruce Banner Hulk Smart Hulk. So I don't know if that was the real reason for the change in name or not, but they recently changed his name. I don't remember what they changed it to. But he is kind of like the Hulk in the new Avengers stuff. But then there's also a mutant named Hulkling, who is like Hulk, but like a little bit more, his body looks like more armory. But he's like the X-Men, the new X-Men version of Hulk. So I don't know where Scar fits into this situation. So I guess we'll see. Hopefully we'll see. I don't know. I did have a question prior to the barbecue happening. Jen confronts Emil, and he agrees to go back to prison for breaking his parole and turning into Abomination. And immediately I said, whoa, double standard. She turned into She-Hulk. Shouldn't she go back to jail?
But she also never tried to do murder on someone before.
True.
Yeah.
But the plea agreement that she agreed to was that she would never turn into She-Hulk again. And not only did she turn into She-Hulk again, but she destroyed her inhibitor to do it.
And then she did beat up a bunch of people.
Yeah. Well, I guess technically a bunch of people in another universe, but still. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm all for her not being in jail, but like technically,
they do say at the end, like, she was forgiven of all charges.
yeah. But that just seems convenient.
Feels like a lot of this episode was convenient.
Well, I mean, literally, they just got rid of some of the plot lines that were happening in the show.
Yeah. I'm still like bummed why they're tiptoeing around mentioning anything outside of Matt Murdock or Daredevil. It's like they're asking him all the questions, but you can't even like, oh yeah, like I'm co-owner of Nelson and Murdoch, and this is who I work. Like, why can't we get any of that?
Yeah, they're being super weird, but also like constantly putting out new information about the Daredevil show.
Yeah.
So it's like, you guys know stuff. Why wouldn't you just include that if you're going to like break all the walls with this episode?
Maybe they just don't want to do anything that the other show is going to have to follow up on. Like they, for their show, don't want to lock them into something that maybe they're not prepared for or hadn't planned on. I don't know. Especially since it seems like the Daredevil show is probably pretty early in production, maybe even pre-production. So maybe there just wasn't enough to say. They haven't got everything settled yet.
True, but I almost feel like this show could potentially have written the Daredevil show into a few things that it needs to explain. And then vice versa, like they can't just never mention Daredevil again in another She-Hulk season. So I don't know. I feel like it's funny, and it was fun to have him in this show, and I really liked the episode that he was a part of, but it's weird that they're so cagey about what he does outside of the like very specific two things that he was a part of in this show.
It's also, I wonder if they wrote anything where like he like used his Daredevil powers at the picnic table at the barbecue, because I guess he's never no one's met Scar until now. He probably hasn't met Hulk. I guess he kind of knows about him through Jen, but I wonder if there's a moment
like
where
Hulk is like an Avenger. He would have to know about
he would
him,
have
right?
to. You would think surely he's up on all that, but you'd think he would have been like, look at Jen and be like, I can hear two additional heartbeats or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He might not know that that's unusual.
Yeah, maybe he's not. Surely he's been to a barbecue before. I'm just expecting all his family to show up. And does he even know that Bruce is in Hulk form?
I would assume.
Yeah,
because he can technically like see, right? Like that's his whole thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I also feel like it's weird that they like keep bringing him around, and she keeps referring to him as Matt, and his whole thing is like, hey, it's cool that like you don't want a secret identity, but I want a secret identity. But then it's like, I mean, it'd be pretty obvious to anyone paying like half of an attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A little sticky situation for Daredevil maybe in the future. I did want to say Amadeus Cho is Brawn. That is the new name they've given him, as opposed to Smart Hulk or Intelligent Hulk. So
she has Bruce in her phone as Smug Hulk.
I did see that. I thought that was very funny. Smug Hulk. I'm enjoying all the like Hulk variant names that we're getting. I was a little bummed that we didn't get anything a little meatier for the we'd finally got another post-credit scene. I mean, it's been like 5 episodes. What are we doing? Why did it take so long? It's been like 3, I think. But
Which I was paying very close attention to the credits, and then when I saw Benedict Wong, I was like, whoa, 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 did I miss something, or are we about to get? I was like, what's going?
Yeah, so we got a little post-credit scene, and I was a little bummed that it didn't mean a little bit more. Basically, he breaks Emil out of prison.
Yay.
And that was it. He was just like, hey, sorry it took so long. And then Emil makes a joke like, oh, were you in another show? And I took it to mean, was Wong being a part of another MCU series? Like, that's what I thought the joke was. But then I remembered that like the whole joke was that he'd been like binging all these shows on streaming platforms, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And then Emil's like, you got Wi-Fi? What's the sleeping arrangement? What's the food arrangement? Cool. All right.
I wish we would have what was her name? Just in the background.
Madison.
Like, just have Madison in the background be like, Wongers.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we leave the episode. So I guess it's weird because it just seems like they're like keeping Abomination around so that we know Abomination is still around, but don't know like what the future is for him. And I feel like this season of the show, like, I don't know, kind of gave like a nice end to Abomination. Like, it was just like, they brought him back for this show. He's reformed. He wasn't doing anything particularly bad when he was turning into Abomination. He was just giving inspirational speeches. I don't know. And then he just agreed to go back to prison. He was like, yeah, I know I messed up, so I'll go do my time. Like, it's cool. And then he goes off with Wong, and now it's like, so are you going to bring him back again?
Yes.
I would be fine with them just kind of like that being the end to his story. I don't really see him being like a Hulk villain again. I don't really
like
think
this free spirit. He's just like, I think it's almost like he's just content. Like, I'm just going to continue doing whatever I want to do, and then just know that like if I do get caught, they're just going to tack on another 10 years of prison.
Right.
But as long as Wong's still around, I'll just get out.
Right. And maybe that is like his end. They're just like, he went to live in Carmitage.
Did they go pick up his soulmates?
Right. Yeah. We never saw it.
Yeah. Why don't? It's like all these little story developments for characters, and then it's just like poof.
Yeah. If I had one complaint for this season, because I did really enjoy it. It was very different from all the other stuff we've got, but I really enjoyed She-Hulk as a whole. My one complaint would be they like did all this character development and then would just ignore it like an episode later.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, why did you do that then? Even I'm still a little confused about like the doctor guy that like liked She-Hulk and then didn't like her, and they just never really like explained any of that anymore. Or like is now that she met Matt, like is this a thing? Is She-Hulk and Matt a thing? But he's supposed to go back to New York. Like, I don't know. There's just like all these little things that like you built this whole season up to, and then that was it.
We definitely do not need more from Dr. Guy. We get his whole deal. He likes She-Hulk. He doesn't like Jen. And so he's just not into it anymore. He was there as an obstacle for Jen. he is no longer necessary. He can leave. But the more they can bring Matt Murdock back, the better.
Yeah. But also like the wrecking crew, like
Mhm.
we don't know where any of them are other than
Except
the
the
wrecker.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know where the rest of them went. We don't know
It just
like how
feels
they
like
got their tech.
they're like these. They're probably like these goons or henchmen or whatever, whichever, that are just going to bounce around from like boss to boss.
Mhm.
Like they're going to go from Kingpin to maybe the leader or
Mhm.
like someone else, Titania. Like those
Mhm.
bounce around.
But that's something else we never really got, like a villain.
Yeah.
Like they literally just erased the villain plot in
Mhm.
the episode. She was just like, no, we don't need that.
Well, and a lot of it was just like this just feels like another version of Super Serum, and we've already had that.
Right.
Which is correct.
Right.
It does
Yeah.
feel like that.
It did.
Yeah.
And also, like, why wouldn't Todd just die? They're supposed to have like a very specific genetic mutation that allows them to survive the gamma
Mhm.
exposure. I can't believe that he would just miraculously also have this same gene that would let him turn into a Hulk and not kill him. That's what I was fully expecting to happen, is him to inject himself and then like just crumple to the floor dead, because that's what happens when you get exposed to gamma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would have been a fine ending as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had to go to our universe.
The whole
Go ahead.
daddy issues moment.
Yeah.
I laughed pretty hard at that.
That was, and then how does it end? It's like, oh, here's my son. Like, I'm a dad. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
come on.
He'll be a
him
good
not wanting to be
daddy.
there.
Yeah.
Now
Be
that
like,
he knows
Scar
that
has
he's
some daddy
there.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. I again roller coaster of emotions watching the episode.
I like just kind of looking through like stills and little details I missed. Like one thing I really liked early on was like her bedroom and like poster of like Aaron Brockovich. Just all these nods to like, but then like when she breaks through and she's going through like the actual like lot, there's like a poster of there's the I Want You poster of Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wish you just go back and steal that to put it up in her room.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm still teetering back and forth between like, did I like it? Did I not? But for now, I liked it. I think it was fun. It was very different. I don't know that it satisfied my need for answers to a lot of the questions that were posed during the season. I do feel it was a little. I can't even say lazy, because it seems almost more complicated than just answering some of the questions. So I don't know, but it was fun. I hope that they only do this for She-Hulk in the future. I don't know that I want
do
to.
this.
Yeah, I don't know that I
Yeah,
want this again.
I think the impact for at least for me, it's just kind of like so much has been announced that it kind of takes away from some of the special moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, I think last week's episode was probably by far my favorite, and then I probably put this one right under it. This one was, as quirky and weird as it is, it's pretty good. It's very clever, but it would have made more water cooler talk if we did not know there was another Daredevil series coming. Like if Daredevil just showed up and then people would just go bananas because they would want to know, like, and then it's seeing him again, they'd want to know, like, is there going to be, are they continuing, like, that would have made bigger hype.
Right.
Because even the last moment of this is very interesting and it's going to get people talking, but I think it's just going to die down super fast.
Right. Well, I definitely agree. Like, I think them putting Daredevil in Spider-Man was a misstep.
Yeah.
I think that
And then you have that as well. Yeah.
because that was kind of like the oh,
Right.
Charlie Cox is back, he's
Mhm.
Daredevil, like that was the big reveal for that, and I feel like it was so short-lived,
Mhm.
where I feel like if this were the reveal that Charlie Cox was back as
Yeah.
Daredevil, it would have been a
Yeah.
little more fun, and also like a little more like, ooh, and he got a new suit, and like he's going back to New York, and like then they could be like, oh, look for Daredevil and his new show, and you'd be like, whoa, a Daredevil show. I think that would have been more fun than like
Yeah.
putting him in like 2 scenes in the Spider-Man movie. But
Right. Yeah. It would have been cooler to have like the post-credit scene would have been like Daredevil will return.
right.
Mhm.
Because I think
That
that
might be
with
nice.
him in this, like we wanted more answers because we already knew, right? We knew there's a
Yeah.
show coming, and we wanted this to kind of maybe explain like what is this series going to be about. Or if we get the Matt Murdock from this is way more lighthearted than the Netflix Daredevil
Oh, yeah.
series that was like very dark. So I don't know if we're supposed to think that this is going to be a little bit more of a lighthearted series, or if we're going to get like dark and brooding, Matt
Mhm.
Murdock walking around with bloody knuckles and busted lips all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe this is his moment of happiness before he has to go do that.
Maybe. I'm expecting Jen will show up in the Daredevil series. I hope so.
I mean, I almost feel like she has to. Like,
I mean, she's got to show up and be like, I missed you. And
And
they're
then,
all
like-
happy together.
and then like cracks
And I
some
still don't have an
skulls and
apartment.
She-Hulk. Yeah.
Still don't have.
So she's moving to New York. I
Oh
mean, they
man,
set
that
it up.
wouldn't. She just shows up. I missed you. Oh hey, how's your parents? Like, sorry, I missed the last barbecue.
I also don't know
I
if
could
they're
s-
like setting up maybe like a West Coast Avengers thing with her not having a place to stay, and
Mm,
maybe that's where the Captain Marvel movie will kind of lead us.
maybe because that is like one of the last questions. Is are you going to take care of this in the courtroom or as a superhero?
Mhm.
She kind of says, I'll do both. So she's embracing being a superhero.
Hmm. And we know we have Miss Marvel is in San Francisco, right? And
Miss Marvel?
yeah.
That was New Jersey.
Oh, that's right.
That
New
was Jersey, yeah.
But she has an aunt. That's what it was. Her aunt is in LA. And then Shang-Chi is in
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Mhm.
She-Hulk is now in LA. So potentially whenever Kamala comes back from her adventures with Rambo and Captain Marvel,
Mhm.
maybe she'll end up at her aunt's, and that will lead to some sort of West Coast Avengers situation. Or
Could see
maybe
that.
they're gonna slowly just shove everybody over to New York, which seems to be, especially this like She-Hulk, Daredevil situation. Like,
Mm.
if they continue that, at least, then
Yeah.
one of them would have to. I mean, I guess they don't have to. They could just have a long distance relationship, but you would think that one of them would
Mhm.
move either or. So,
Hmm.
more questions. But yeah, that does it for She-Hulk. Fun series. Give it a watch if you haven't watched it yet. What are you doing? Why are you listening to this episode? This is the last episode. Go watch the first episode.
Yeah, we're not here to do the work for you. Go watch it.
But definitely stay tuned because there's all kinds of fun stuff coming up. We're going to have our watch of Werewolf by Night. Then we're going to have our Halloween spooky episode. I think we're going to continue with some of the spooky Marvel movies. My vote is Blade 2. I know we'd also talked about doing Ghost Rider, but
We set up the beginning of a trilogy last year.
Yeah. So yeah, we gotta finish.
This is true. We could also put out a poll on social and have listeners vote.
Okay.
Ooh.
We gotta pick one more. What's one more that we?
We just watched Crimson Peak.
Oh goodness. Let's see. So Blade 2, Ghost Rider.
Can't watch Ghost Rider 2 without watching Ghost Rider 1. So
Oh, these are
true.
facts.
I don't know that there is another spooky movie.
I'm trying to think.
It'd be like Morbius.
Oh yeah.
we can watch
boy.
Morbius again.
I don't know.
Ooh, it is streaming, I think.
Oh, there. Oh, no.
Oh, we could
What
do
is
New
it?
Mutants.
New Mutants.
Yeah.
Is that one scary?
Yeah. I mean, not like
Is it dark and brooding because they're teens or something?
it is, but it's
It
also
is.
they
Okay.
tried like basically one of the characters' abilities is to make your fears come to life. So
Ooh.
there is like a psychological thriller aspect to that movie. So
Yeah.
that'll be our be
Yeah.
our third choice. That's a good one. And if we don't get to it this time, then as we're watching, it is slated in our watch through of all of the X-Men films. So we'll get to it eventually. But yeah, we'll put that poll up on social so you guys can vote which of those that you would like us to watch for our Halloween episode. And then Black Panther. Wakanda Forever.
Can't wait.
So
I'm so ready.
stay tuned. Lots of cool stuff coming. And hopefully as soon as Wakanda Forever ends, we'll get a new series and continue. If not,
Have they given an official date for the holiday special, the Guardians holiday? I haven't.
I don't
recall
think so.
seeing
I haven't
one.
seen one.
I did see that the Ant-Man trailer may drop before Wakanda Forever, so it's possible that
Ooh.
trailer will come out before, which is kind of expected, but at the same time, I kind of wish they would hold it for right before you see Wakanda Forever.
Yeah. Yeah. That would just make the most sense, but
Yeah.
it does not look like it. Just says December 2022.
Okay.
So hopefully
Maybe that'll be a post-credit scene then. Maybe we'll get the date. Maybe we'll get like a little Guardians clip and they just kind of mention a date or
How
something.
do we don't have a date for that, but we have a date for Ant-Man Quantumania.
Right?
I blame James Gunn.
Same with What If season 2 just says early 2023. But Ant-Man's still strong at February 17th.
Well, but now we don't. I mean, if we want to get into like some of the recent news to wrap this up, so many things have gotten pushed back. The
Yeah.
new Blade is on pause
Yeah.
and has been pushed back, and it's a little sad.
Hopefully that just means it'll be really good when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these things, I want them to take their time on. Like, so
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, check our social media. We're going to be posting our shoe pictures
Yay.
along with this episode, or at least tomorrow, Friday. So you will all get to see our shoe designs. And yeah, join us next week for our Werewolf by Night episode. And any other exciting news that we may get before then. I doubt it, but you never know. Stuff could drop. So I guess question for this week. I think the obvious is like, what did you think of the episode? But you should just let us know that anyway. So the question that I'll pose is,
Is Kevin Feige really a robot? That would explain everything.
I'll say the question for this week is, after seeing something like the ending for this episode, do you hope that we get more fourth wall breaks going forward with other characters, or do you prefer no more fourth wall breaks other than Deadpool, because that's like his shtick?
Yeah,
so that doesn't count. But any other characters, are you looking forward to more fourth wall breaks or not? So that'll be our question this week. Yeah, and then we'll answer it next week. So you have to wait until next week to hear what we think. even though I'm pretty sure we made it clear. Cool. We'll talk to you guys next week for the beginning of spooky episodes.
Spooky.